bonuses by £40,000. For a mere £5 a month, you can receive all of UK column news and our interviews and the seminars as well, plus much else besides. So £5 a month, not a lot these days. Share the information. This is why we do it. Please give us some credit for the work that we produce, but otherwise share as far and wide as possible. And also you can make a purchase in our shop to help us out. Water bottles are particularly popular, and summer is approaching, so you might think of one of those. Plus I have another use which I'll speak to you about at the end of the news. Debbie, your blog will be up very shortly. Do you want to give us just a quick summary of what you've been talking about?
Indeed, I will, Brian. Well, I was asked for my opinion on the National Autistic Society. So you've got it, warts and all, everybody. What's flirt? Well, we might be able to talk briefly about flirt in extra. And quantum teleportation, is it real? Yes, it probably is. And I'm very concerned about the disability benefits overhaul. So I've gone into quite a bit of depth about that. And yes, we really do have an internet of animals.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now, I'd just like to give people a reminder that I was really pleased to be able to do these interviews. The first one with J. Michael Waller discussing his book, Big Intel, about the CIA and the FBI. And what he's really talking about is subversion of the American intelligence agency. So if you haven't watched that interview, please get onto UK Column and have a look. And the second one is with Michael Nels, MD, PhD. The Indoctrinated Brain is the title. Another book, really fascinating piece of work. And of course, I learned so much from this man about what is being done to interfere with normal thought processes. Now, Mike Robinson should be on the road at the moment, heading to somewhere along the south coast near Worthing. And that's for the Staining Centre, where the Western Empire and the Great Reset lecture will be taking place at 10:30 on Saturday morning. And that's £5 through PayPal or on the door if you can get there, to support them and Mike Robinson. Now, I'm going to move on to the subject of, we've also got Alternative View 14. Many apologies, Alternative View team. Just to remind people, that's taking place on Sunday, the 26th of May. And if you book your ticket and mention UKC10, that will give a discount and will also help them with their marketing. So please do that. Okay, I'd like to move on to the subject of low emission zones. And there have been a few people contacted me to say, well, the UK column hasn't been covering what's happening on the ground. And absolutely true. We have missed some of the events that have taken place where people have been challenging the ULEZ system with Sadiq Khan. But we're going to try and make up for that today, and also to take off the lid, to take the lid off the scale of the sheer thing. So this was a report, of course, praising Sadiq Khan for his third term as London mayor. But in the background, the ULEZ protests have been going on, and in some ways are getting worse. I have been sent some pictures. This was for a while ago in April, but police on the streets in Thrale Road, Tooting, and London area, suburbs of London. And of course, the police particularly tough on anybody challenging the system. Let's have a little look at this protest clip. This clip here, which is actually Sadiq Khan himself simply dismissing anybody who's protesting as being some right-wing extremist. Let's have a look at this clip.
What I find unacceptable, though, is some of those who've got legitimate objections joining hands with some of those outside who are part of a far-right group who are... Let's call a spade a spade. Some of those outside are part of the far right. Some are COVID deniers. Some are vaccine deniers. And some are Tories. Experts around the world have never seen a policy so transformative. If it's good enough for those in central London, why isn't it good enough for those in outer London. Look, clean air is a human right, not a privilege.
So anybody who dares challenge the system is going to be put down by Mr. Khan, but disingenuous, absolutely, and we'll be having a look at him in a little bit more detail in a couple of minutes. But just a little bit more on the protests themselves. A ULEZ bus has been in operation, and this is very interesting to see. I'd like to learn more about this. I think we have a gentleman coming on screen with a banner in a minute. Yeah, no ULEZ, no pay per mile. So it's very clear that people are upset with what's happening, and maybe the scale of the protests has increased. Let's have a look at this little video report.
Oh, here we are, border of the ULEZ zone. Everyone, I'm sure you can see all the filthy air around here that we need this ULEZ for. But, there is no filthy air, because we're out in the middle of the countryside with trees and lakes and and yeah, the ULEZ has fallen over again, folks. Look at that, straight through the wire. The lights are out here, they've already been out, put a little sign on it, little cone. But yeah, here at the river, folks, here at the river. ULEZ is dead, all painted up. It's looking a bit, I think the painters have gone a bit mental. I don't know if they're missing the ULEZ. Oh no, they've got the ULEZ too, all painted up and squirted up, but someone's come and chopped it down. This isn't good enough. We don't want them painted, we want them off our streets.
Well, sad end to that camera. Now, Sadiq Khan would have us believe that he's implementing this policy for the benefit of London and people in the outer London suburbs, but there's a lot more to it. And I want to say here that if people search for information on the UK Column website, you will find a huge amount about global cities, which is where the real policy is coming from. 13 pages on a simple search of global cities. And if we go for a UK Column search on Sadiq Khan himself, we're going to come up with a couple of full pages of information. And of course, where there's a reference to the UK Column news, there's a lot of detail in the show notes themselves. So I'm just going to say very gently for some of our viewers and listeners that if you're saying we're not reporting on certain issues, very often we are, and we have been for some time. But of course, you have to look for the information on the UK Column website. And I think most people will be very surprised at the sheer amount of information if you carry out the search. Now, let's get back onto the subject, which is Sadiq Khan. And of course, a key company or a key organisation we have to look at in relation to him is C40 Cities. And if you have a look at the on-screen text here, it's talking about his work in support of this, particularly for cities in the global south. Nothing to do with people in UK or London or the outer suburbs. It's the global south. He's working with the budget. He's working with air quality. He's working with inclusive climate change action. But when you look at the C40 Cities site, it starts to get interesting with who else is involved. So we've got a hedge fund, Children's Investment Fund Foundation. We've also got Bloomberg Philanthropies. We'll have a little look at those. But look at the sheer number of people involved with Sadiq Khan in C40, in the C40 Cities programme. Major funders, the UK government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Denmark, IKEA, Hewlett Foundation, Global Environment, L'Oreal, Open Society, George Soros, Amazon Pledge, Zurich Insurance, the Scottish Government, on it goes, including Google. So when people are looking at Sadiq Khan and saying he's the man causing the problem, no, not really. He's simply the puppet who's following the agenda from these much bigger, tougher organisations. Arup is in there, which might catch Ben's attention, the London School of Hygiene and the World Bank. So this is very powerful. Now, if we look at the first link look through, this was the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. And you should go to the website and have a look. Slightly spooky because you quickly find that the people identify themselves as children. What do I mean? Let's have a look at the slide. Kate Hampton is the chief executive. Let's make her grow up so we can see who we're dealing with. I found this rather distasteful that they've used their images of children, but this is the way it is. And if we look at this lady herself, well, she's very interesting because she's done so many roles. She's worked as CEO of the Children's Investment Fund. She's been involved with climate change. She's worked for the China Council on International Cooperation in Environment and Development. And if we move our arrow, we can also see here that she was named as a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader. So Sadiq Khan is a very small player in a very big pond, which is driving him. And just to give you some idea of the number of people involved in this investment foundation itself, let's scroll through the children to see how many we're really dealing with. Now, remember, these aren't children, they're executives working in this organization. But my point is, this is not a few people, this is a very large, powerful organization, which is absolutely demonstrating it has the power to move and shake the Mayor of London. And we'll move on from there if we can. And if we have a look here at the C40 Cities Board of Directors, we can see that we've got Michael R. Bloomberg himself. And if we just move down to the gentleman underneath, we've got Bruce Lindsay, who's the chair of the board for the Clinton Foundation. So this very much fits with where Ben has been talking to you. It's difficult to tell where government ends and big business begins, but what we can be sure of is that very powerful players are controlling the strings of Sadiq Khan. Here's Bloomberg Philanthropies. Now, of course, on their website, they say they're doing wonderful things for the world. They've given away $17.4 billion. However, I would like to ask, where has that money come from in the first place? And secondly, what strings are attached to the money when it's given away? Because overwhelmingly, this is about transformational change in particularly poorer countries and amongst the Black community. So lots of questions to be asked. If we go back to the Children's Investment Fund itself, under the trustees, we see an interesting name, Masroor Siddiqui. And we've also next to him got Ben Goldsmith, who I think many people would describe as a big mover and shaker. But let's actually have a look at Siddiqui himself, and you don't have to go far to find the headline. Here's the Telegraph, and it says that he's the close confidant of Rishi Sunak, who shuns the limelight, and it points out that he's a former Goldman Sachs banking colleague of Rishi. But the key thing is, in the Telegraph article, they point out that another hedge fund, Naya Capital, started by Mr. Siddiqui, shorted or helped to short the government contractor Carillion before it imploded and went out of business in 2018 under a mere £7 billion worth of debt. So I'm going to say to our audience today, if you're worried about those ULEZ cameras, the cameras are one thing, but you've really got to understand what Sadiq Khan is doing and who is pulling his strings to make him do what he's doing. And it's not only the cameras that have got to be brought down, it's these semi-secretive global structures which are supporting Mr. Khan. These have also got to be exposed and brought down. Ben, I wish I had more time to talk through this sort of stuff, because there are so many little alleys and tunnels that you need to